Before I begin, I want to thank Student Council for producing the beads for us today. Gold, purple, and green. What do they mean, though? What does each color stand for? Anyone know? Ooh. Muhammad, I'm looking at you. Right. Got nothing. All right. Where's Jackie? Oh, Jackie's got her head down. The purple signifies justice, the green, faith, and the gold, power. So as you're wearing those today on Mardi Gras or Shrove Tuesday, please remember that you're wearing those deals, those stripes. What you have up on the screen and behind me is a photograph of Dr. Ernest Rosado, who was regarded by many as one of the best surgeons in America. This picture was taken when he performed his last surgery on October 3, 2011. It was sent to me by John Morris, Chief of the Department of Gastrointestinal Surgery at Penn. Pictured here on the left is Dr. Morris. In the middle is Dr. Kathleen Lee, senior resident in that department. And Dr. Rosado is pictured on the right. Dr. Rosado died recently, and we had services for him here in the class of 1944 chapel on January 14. 9 of his children attended Episcopal Academy, and 2 of his nephews. Dr. Rosado was one of the most important people in medicine in our country, yet you would not know him unless you were connected in some way, shape, or form into the medical community. There were some 1,000 people present for his service, many watching on the TVs that are out in the lobby. I went to a tribute dinner for him last spring where 18 people sung his praises. He was brilliant. He was an excellent teacher, winning the prestigious Teacher of the Year award at Penn Medical School for 17 consecutive years. He removed his name from the ballot one year to give somebody else a chance, and the students wrote him in anyway and voted for him for that award. A day before Thanksgiving in 2010, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. He and I spent a year and 3 months together, meeting on a regular basis to talk about faith and life. I was supposed to be his guide through this time, but he taught me far more than he ever learned from me. What do Dr. Rosado's pilgrimage through chemotherapy and Jesus' time in the wilderness have to do with Lent? Quite a bit, I think. We know that there have been too many people affected by this disease here in our community. They are among the bravest people that I know, living each day with that stripe of courage. It has been said that everyone knows someone or of someone who has been affected by this disease. Tomorrow is Ash Wednesday, which begins a season of Lent, a time when Jesus spent 40 days in the wilderness tempted by the devil. There's not much in the Bible that states exactly what happened during that time. The basic facts are that when Jesus was hungry, the devil tempted him with food. When he was feeling vulnerable, the devil tempted him with power over a vast territory. We know that the desert is in the south of Israel, and it's one of the most barren, difficult places in the world to live. Today, very, very few tour groups will venture into that area because it's a barren wasteland. Jesus' time in the desert is like a treatment for cancer, in that you remember and recall simple messages of life and what it means to live by faith when you're going through those wilderness times. It is life cut right to the bone, where you see what is really important, whether you like it or not. Dr. Rosado was a brilliant, compassionate man, and Jesus was the God-made man. What both share is when you are in the midst of a tough journey like Jesus in the wilderness and Dr. Rosado in treatment, it is the simple things in faith and life that count. That means that all of us here this morning are capable of living through hard times because the bottom line is that we have a common humanity. We are more alike than we are different. Remember, Father Jack McNamee spoke about that theme, and at the beginning of February, Mr. Will Forbes spoke about his great uncle, Lieutenant Francis Cox Forbes, who was shot down over enemy territory during World War II, and for whom our middle school cross is named. He survived that ordeal by carrying his Bible wherever he went. And he shared with me privately that he found his courage by reciting his favorite psalm, which is Psalm 23. You all know it. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. And it goes on to talk about God's all-abiding presence. One of Dr. Rosado's favorite psalms was that as well. And simple prayers like the Our Father, become the most meaningful in this particular time. In Jesus' case, he appealed to his Father simply for courage, that God's will be done. There's a rather incredible video called The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch. It is on YouTube, and you should view it. We watched it in ethics last term, and will again this term. Randy Pausch spoke to the students and their professors at a lecture at Case Western Reserve University about his journey in the treatment of pancreatic cancer. He tells us that what we really need to do in life is to live it with great purpose. He never expected his lecture to travel at record speed through the internet and then ultimately to be put in a book form. The two quotations that meant the most to the students in ethics that they wrote about on their exam were a new attitude toward approaching the tough times in life. Paul said, walls are put in front of us to see how badly we want something. Walls are put in front of us to see how badly we want something. And the second one was, experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. Experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. Jesus' time in the wilderness was a time when day after day he was tempted by the devil. Do this, and I, the devil, will do that for you. They were walls tough walls of hunger and despair. And his response was always, "Get thee behind me, Satan." And he would move forward through the temptations to acknowledge God as the Holy One. Dr. Rosado and all cancer patients constantly are pushing through similar walls: fever, side effects from chemo, unexpected hospitalization, pain, terrible nausea, and fatigue. Their eyes are fixed on the now and in the future, and you'll hear words like, "I will try," I will not give up." And like Jesus and Dr. Rosado, they pray and hear in their soul the words of God, "Be not afraid." It is interesting that the Gospel of Mark, which is the earliest gospel, begins with Jesus in the wilderness, which is the story of Lent, albeit in a very, very short version. I believe that Mark placed the story of Lent there so that it would demonstrate what Jesus needed to have to enter his earthly, very, very difficult 3-year ministry. That's very clear to me. When you are in the wilderness, please keep in mind, whether it be Dr. Rosado or Jesus, your experiences shape you to lead a richer life. You take nothing for granted. When he traveled from his home in Haverford to my office, he noticed things that he had never seen before, appreciated things with a higher level of appreciation, and felt grateful for the little things in life that you and I may take for granted. Can you imagine the new meaning that a drink of water would have meant to Jesus with his great thirst? We pass water fountains all day long, and we never think about thirst. We have lives that are relatively pain-free. We love to eat our food. Can you imagine what it was like for Dr. Rosado and other cancer patients and have a pain-free day, or finally to be able to savor your food, and more importantly, not to throw it up? There's a lot of learning to do during this season of Lent. There are very valuable lessons to be taught. And like Jesus and Dr. Rosado and other cancer patients, you and I have to identify our walls, push through them, discovering what it takes to do that, learning that life is to be enjoyed or learned from, and listening to that voice deep within us, deep and within each and every one of us. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. This is the living God talking and supporting you. Amen. Let us kneel to pray.